You say you were going to go into another thing.
I was going to go on.
Go ahead.
Now this one isn't my idea. This is one I picked up a long time ago, but it's one again that can really be used for a whole bunch of levels, for a whole bunch of vocabulary. But I like to call it city race. So what you do is you put your students in teams. Let's say there are 3 teams. You get them all to give you their team name. The way I like to do it is with an adjective, a color, and then a noun. So you might have the big green pigs. Okay, very interesting. Or you might have the hilarious fluorescent pink ocelots. So they're your team names. You've got your 3 teams. Now I have a mild obsession with capital cities. I really love capital cities. So I like to go around and ask the teams to vote on a capital city.
Like you mean learning them or?
Oh, I love learning them, yeah. Okay. I love learning them. It's also one of my favorite things when anyone says, has anybody got any questions? My go-to question is, what's the capital city of Burkina Faso? Because nobody expects that question. Especially when you're in like a teacher's conference or a teacher's talk. Anyone got any questions? Yeah, excuse me. What's the capital city of Burkina Faso? And it's actually one that I included on my last talk. I had my feedback sheets, and it was, were any of the things useful to you? What was your favorite activity? What's the capital of Burkina Faso? Will you use any of these activities in class? And they're all just like, that's bizarre. So yeah, I love capital cities. So what I do, I go around, I ask them a capital city. First, they're like, Paris, Madrid, New York. That's not a capital. What? Yeah, traditional. So then, you can work on your capitals and maybe they'll come up with Edinburgh. What I then do, I go up to the whiteboard because everybody's got a whiteboard, and I write Edinburgh, but I write it vertically going down, okay? So you got ED and so on, all the way down. And then I put those in 3 lines, and then the students have a race, and they have to go up one by one. And I'll be very strict with your rules at the start of this game. What I do, I always start by saying no running. If you run, you have a 10-second penalty. And only one person can be standing up, and they must have the pen in their hand. So I make sure the students...
So you have 3 lines of students, 3 teams.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't put them in lines.
Okay.
I keep them sitting in their chairs, but I have the teams together. So then what the students have to do, they have to stand up with the pen, walk to the board, and write a word. I don't know, maybe you can do it as lexical sets, or you can just do it as any word. So you've got E, maybe they just write enough on the board. So one of them writes enough, another one writes every day, and another one writes egg. So they've done that, and then they have to walk to the next person who takes the pen, walks up to the board, and they're doing Edinburgh, so they have to do the D. So they write a word for D, dangerous. And then you tell them, think about, expanding that. The next is like, dangerous. I'm going to write dangerously. So you go through, and you basically get them to write up as much vocabulary as you can, be it in a lexical set that you're focusing on, or just be it in general. When one team finishes, I always give them a bonus point for finishing first. And then we all step back from the board and we look at the words. I say 1 point for a word up to 5 letters, 2 points for a word for 6 letters, and then 3 points for a word 7 or over. And I go through and I count up the points for each team. If there's a spelling mistake, it's wrong.
Boom.
Out you go. That way they can learn the proper spelling.
And to care.
And they'll always be like, yeah, exactly. And they'll always be like, oh, but he copied me. Sorry. There's not a lot I can do about that. That means you were finishing. And I like to say that, it's the finest, imitation is the finest form of flattery.
There you go.
So yeah, he was copying you, but you'd already written it, so your team wins. Count up all the points, check out all the spelling mistakes, and then sit back down. Now you can do it in other ways. You can do it with words containing those letters. You can do it with sentences starting with those letters. You can do it with different lexical sets. You can do the word that goes down doesn't have to be a capital city. I mean, I will be brutally offended if you don't use a capital city, but it can be something from the lexical set that you're using, or words that they often misspell. So in Spain, for example, which, they always forget the H. They're WH questions, but they always forget the H. So maybe you want to do it with which. You write it up there.
Or with, which I don't know why, but they usually spell it WHIT, or how they spell something. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, it drives me absolutely mental. It's one of the things I start with at the start of the class, like early days. I go through some of the mistakes I've come across over the years, and I say, everybody, please write these in the front page of your notebook. Please write these in the front page of your notebook, and make sure you don't do these different things. You know, you're fun and you're funny, and these typical Spanish mistakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game's really good for class control. Like, one of the things is like the discipline, and when, like, I used to do it in the lines, like you say, but the problem is they're running to the front, they're pushing, they're trying to get there. So if you keep them in their chairs and they're not allowed to run, they have to stand up, they have to walk over like a reasonable pace. And the important thing in the game is that they write it quickly. It also gives them time to think about it, because there's always one or two students that are a bit slower than others, and they need their time to think about it. So that way, while they're walking up to the board, they're sitting there, they're looking at it, they're walking up there slowly, they get there, and they're like, okay, I've got a word for G. And they go up there and they write go, and then they can sit down again, and it's all good. They've got their letter up there.
And
so there you go.
adapt the rules. Like we just talked, you just gave a few adaptations right there. That, you know, make your own rules. I was thinking about one as you were talking that I would probably, I don't know, maybe I would predict the word, and if they wrote the word that I predicted, then they wouldn't get any points or something like that. And
that's a great idea.
And you repeat it, that would save like eat elephant. Yeah, I would predict elephant, you know.
Oh, that's really good. I hadn't actually thought of that.
Yeah, so adaptability is your friend as a teacher, right?
Oh, very much. And like you say, when it comes to looking at these games or these ideas or anything like that, it's, for me, a huge thing is adaptability. Like I said at the start, that game, that's not my game. That's a game I saw on the internet, I don't know, 10 years ago. I used it once, and then, I've taken it, I've adapted it, I've molded it to fit the way I would teach it. And that's the thing with any game. Like, I'd say probably a good 40% of the games, the ideas that I use in workshop have been taken from a different idea and just slightly reworked, because, you know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can, you know, adapt the wheel. Maybe your wheel doesn't need spokes anymore. You know, you can change it around, but you don't need to completely reinvent it.
Absolutely. And it's probably best that you don't. You know, there's so many resources here, and, you know, like you said, adapt theirs to your style or your classes, and then make it your own, you know? That's what you do.
And that's the thing with, when it comes to teaching, is it's time. You know, you don't have time to spend hours and hours and hours preparing, thinking about these ideas. So what I like to try and do with as many of my ideas as possible, as you can see, is they're prep free. Like, that's no preparation in that whatsoever. There's practice in it, but like, why is there a monkey in your bag? You need a bag. The kids bring a bag to school. Like, everything's already there. They're things that you already have. So it's something that you don't need to sit there cutting up pieces of paper, laminating, making sure you've got the right number of mini whiteboards, which is an amazing tool. Don't get me wrong. I love mini whiteboards. But they're things that you can just do.
Just do. I love activities with little or no prep. And then you always end up forgetting something, or leave it in another classroom if you're in the teacher's room or something, and that just breaks momentum. Hey guys, I'm sitting here with my daughter, Sophia. She's recording this, and I just want to thank you for watching this video. If you like it and you want to see another video like it, then right next to me, you can click another video for a fun lesson idea or a teaching tip. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you get new videos every week. Keep teaching and keep learning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.